should we consciously direct our breath within our Qigong practice? That is going to be the topic of this episode of Qi Life. So this one, again, it's from a question that someone has sent in, and I think it's a good question to discuss. Because as you're getting started on your Qigong practice, it's likely that you might look around, you might try a few different types of Qigong practice to see what you like. You might have contact with a few different Qigong teachers. You might read some different books by different authors. And within these, you will sometimes come across quite different views about different topics. And it's helpful to be able to put these into perspective. And this issue of should we use our breath consciously in our Qigong practice is one of these topics that you will sometimes come across quite different views about. Sometimes these views can be quite extreme. So on the extreme in terms of using the breath consciously, there'll be some people who say, hey, Qigong is all about breath. That's all it's about. Everything, whatever you do, you have to consciously regulate your breath. You have to always breathe in a certain way. That's going to be down one end. At the other end, you'll have the people who recognize that the breath has a powerful effect on us. And their perspective is like, ooh, the effect is so powerful, it affects so many different things within our body, within our energy, that we wouldn't want to risk directing it consciously and doing the wrong thing and somehow putting ourselves out of balance because our unconscious can actually process a lot more than we can consciously. And so when we do something consciously, we might not do quite the right thing. Just leave it to the unconscious. Maybe we'll observe it, but we'll let our unconscious direct what needs to happen. So that's another contrasting view. Now, to some extent, there's at least a grain of truth in either of these extremes, but there's all this territory in between, which is the healthy different ways that we might apply our conscious awareness to our breath. So first, just how powerful is our breath? Why is it so important? There's this strong connection between our breath and our energy. That connection is so strong that the word qi, so the Chinese character used for the word qi, can also be translated quite simply just as breath. The connection is that strong. Now, the reason for this is that when we change our breathing, or how we're breathing, has a flow-on effect to every other part of our body. To begin with, it affects all of our other internal organs. From there, it also flows out to affect our muscles through our body, our blood flow, our nerve activity, how our brain is functioning. All of these things are influenced by what's going on with our breath. And our breath also has this unique function where it bridges between conscious and unconscious control. It's the one aspect of the internal functioning of our organs that we can easily change consciously. Most of the other organs, they just do their thing unconsciously, and if we don't think about it, our lungs and our breath will also just continue to function unconsciously. But if we do think about it, we can breathe faster, slower, deeper, more shallow, change the rhythm of our breath, and so on, quite easily. That then affects the lungs, that then affects everything else. So it becomes a powerful tool for bridging between consciousness and unconsciousness, starting to affect those things that go on within our body, normally unconsciously, having some conscious effect on those. So, super powerful, but the power of this then leads to the extreme views. It's so powerful. That should be the main thing we focus on all the time. Or, it's so powerful. Don't trust your conscious mind with this. Leave it to the unconscious. There's just too many things for you to manage consciously. There is, again, sometimes there might be some cases where that's the approach you want to take, but there's a lot of room in between that can be really valuable to us. So I'll talk about a few of these. One of the ways that we might quite simply work with our breath is simply to develop capacity and skill with our breathing. So to be able to allow our body to move, to open more easily, and also to empty out more fully, so that the breathing function becomes easier, so that we're able to breathe deeper, breathe slower, even to breathe faster if we need to, and so on. Just building that capacity. And then once we have that capacity, that is then going to support us and support our unconscious mind in being able to adapt and change the breath the way it needs to support us in just our daily activities and also within our Qigong practice. So the conscious development of skill and capacity is then just facilitating or enabling the unconscious. It's got a stronger tool to work with then more effectively. We can take this further and start to recognize aspects of how breathing in different ways specifically affects some of those things inside. And there's a whole range of ways we can do this. And again, a lot of this will come down to how fast we breathe and things like that will affect our physiology, our blood flow, our blood chemistry, the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide and things like that within the body. We can also use the breath in the way the pressures move inside our body. So we might combine this with movements. So inhaling and exhaling at certain times with a movement to move pressure inside our body, to massage and activate different organs in different ways, and to move the blood through our body in different ways, and so on. That's another simple way. Moving further than this, again, the breath has this ability to bridge between conscious and unconscious control and awareness. And so breathing in specific ways helps us to enter a state of mind and body where that connection becomes stronger and more clear to us. And once we've done that, that then develops our awareness so that we can start to be aware of things, not just our breath, but other things going on within our body, and start to have some conscious direction of that as well. This then leads finally, when you put all of that together, developing capacity, physically understanding how the breath affects different parts of our body, using the breath as a way to make a stronger connection between mind and body, this then allows us to develop a much stronger connection and awareness of our energy. And then we can use that much more directly, directing that through our body, and breath becomes a valuable tool within that. Now again, there's a lot to this, and there's lots of different Qigong practices that work with this in different ways. We develop this skill and awareness little by little by little with practice. And to begin with, it often starts just with developing capacity. If you're interested in some basic practices for starting to develop that capacity, that ability to breathe freely and easily, we have a free Qigong course. It's called The Complete Natural Breath. We'll put a link to that below, which gives you some exercises for starting to do that. It's a great place to start. But then going beyond that, we develop little by little this awareness of the effects the breath is having in different parts of the body, and then the connection to the energy, and so on. And there are a lot of parts to it, and trying to control the breath too strongly can be a bad idea. So there is merit to this perspective of like, don't just consciously control things too much, because we might be like, I'm intent on doing this, and not realize some of the other things going on with your body, with your mind, that might need you to breathe in a different way. And so often we want to have, within some practices, we do actually consciously sometimes want to go, look, I'm not going to control this consciously. I'm going to let my breath just adapt naturally. But that's going to be very different once we've developed some skill. It will, the skill then flows into supporting that natural adaptation. And that can come in a variety of different ways. One, again, just the capacity as we've talked about, but also the aspects of awareness and energy. And so we're like, okay, I'm letting my breath do things just naturally, but I have a focus on this aspect of my energy. And we've developed the skill and unconscious recognition of, when I want to do this with my energy or with my body, my breathing needs to do this. And so we're not consciously going, change this about my breathing. We're just going, I want to do this with my energy or this with my body. And the unconscious mind is then able to go, we know what we need to do to support this, and we can achieve that effect much more easily. And so we become more skillful at unconsciously using our breath. On the other hand, and certainly within some practices, we do very specifically want to use the breath in specific ways to achieve a certain result. And that's, we will consciously direct that to achieve that result. And that's, how we get very specific results. And it's also partly how we develop the skill and awareness and connection that is then going to support the unconscious function. So there's value and merit in all portions of this spectrum or continuum of perspectives of how we use our breath. They're all valuable to us in a variety of different ways, and depending on what Qigong practice you're doing and where you're at with your development of skill and awareness will affect how you choose to use your breath at different times in your practice. Even for the same practice, there will be a stage where it's best to not consciously control the breath. While you're just learning the movements, getting comfortable with them, you're like, okay, don't worry about the breath. Just let that come naturally. Then once you've got the physical skill of movement, then you go, okay, now I'm going to bring in some simple awareness of the breath. I'm not going to direct it too strongly. I'm still going to let it adapt. I'm going to change things if I need to, but I'm going to start to regulate the breath rather than direct it, too consciously. Then as we get further in, we might have more skill. Then we go, okay, I'm going to use the breath quite specifically with my practice to direct the energy in specific ways. Okay, hopefully that's been interesting, not too rambly. I look forward to seeing you in another one soon.